me, or how'd you want to do that?
So we're very excited that you're all here today for our relationship marketing workshop. We are recording it, so if any of your members or anyone that you know personally that might benefit from this, we will have it available on the website. As always, I'm very excited that Jim Fuse is giving us his time to talk about the amazing things that you can do with social media because he is the expert. We have utilized him in so many facets of our Toastmasters year. And he's also going to talk about how you can market yourself from a professional perspective as well. So it's not just about Toastmasters. And I know he's going to open it up later for questions. So please feel free to ask him anything you may be interested in. And with that, I would like to introduce Jim Fuse.
Thank you. And so a couple things you all might want to do is you might want to spotlight me because what we're going to see is I'm actually going to be using a tool called Ecamm as my virtual camera today. So that way I don't have to actually share slides. I don't know if any of you have a Mac. That's something you can do. There's also a tool called Prezi as well. And so what we're going to talk about today, as was mentioned, is relationship marketing. And so, do you actually know what relationship marketing is? Well, today I'm going to talk about how we can build know, like, and trust to not only help strengthen your Toastmasters Club and its membership, but also for those that you are in business, how you can also help your clients. And so, the purpose of this workshop is to make you all familiar with that. And the other thing would be I want you to be able to walk away with some new skills and things of that nature. And so the first thing, so I'm going to basically cover a few areas today. And those areas are going to be I'm going to talk about what's called the CARE approach, CARE. You may or may not have heard that. It's kind of a relationship marketing life cycle. We're going to talk about how to use the 4 E's of social media to grow your relationships. And we're also going to talk about some ways to create and grow the connections that you currently have. And so I see we've got another person joining, so I'll get them in here. And so the first thing I want to talk about, and hopefully you guys are able to see this because I know I'm getting a different view on my screen than maybe you are, is I wanted to talk about the care wheel. And so the care wheel is something that was invented by my friend Jessica Phillips. She is a expert in the field of relationship marketing. And so really what the care wheel is about is we're really looking to build super fans and followers and not just followers in general. It doesn't matter if you have 20,000 people that follow you if they don't actually engage with you, right? So it's kind of like that's where we get into the numbers game. And so the first step in that is we want to capture their attention, right? What are we putting out there that is going to make someone think about this? And this is where we're building that brand awareness for our clubs. The next thing we want to do, the A, is we want to articulate our message. And this is where, when we do articulate the message, this is where we're able to, start to build that brand. Each one of your clubs has a brand. The next step is the R is building relationships, right? We want to build know, like, and trust because I'm not going to trust you if I don't know you yet. That's something where I think sometimes we go a little bit too fast. And then the final, the E, is we want to create exceptional experiences. As an example, for those of you that were able to attend TLI just a couple months ago, the district went out of their way to do a different format than just a Zoom. We had a lot of great feedback from people because they actually got to network and connect with people. And so this is kind of a continuous life cycle, the care wheel. And sometimes you're going to bring people in at different points. They're not always going to be in that first step because they're going to know about you already based on what you do. And so not only can this apply to our clubs, this can also apply to you in business. And if you think about each person that you bring into this life cycle, there are many things you can do. I mean, some of it is, and this isn't always about, as I like to call it, broadcasting our message, right? We don't want to just be sending stuff out, but also we want to get into doing things that make sense for us to help people overcome some of their challenges. And so, in that regards, what I want to get into next for a little bit is the 4 E's of social media. And the reason I call them that is one, they all start with an E, but also have a fifth one. It's a C that I kind of throw in there as a bonus. Whenever we're talking to people, and especially in Toastmasters, we need to educate the community of what is it that we're about. People, how many of you have thought of like, oh, well, Toastmasters is a bunch of people that are talking about toast. That's what I used to think, right? We're learning how to toast people. But it's much more than that. You know, Toastmasters is where leaders are made, right? That's been one of the big key things. So when we educate people about Toastmasters, that's where they're starting to get to know us, right? That goes back to the C in care, like making people aware of the things we do. So when we're using our social media, and it doesn't really what platform it is, are we educating people about what they get out of being a member of Toastmasters? Or if you're a business, and I know my friend Mike does a great job with this, he educates people about what he does as a financial planner. He does this with video. That's another thing I would say, as much as people have been afraid to do this, is you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable when it comes to doing video. It doesn't have to be live video, even though live is better sometimes because then uh, we don't have to edit it. I mean, sometimes maybe we wish we could, but when we educate people about what we're doing, especially if it's on video, they can go back and watch and relearn. Like if somebody had a question, like, oh, tell me, what is Toastmasters? If you had a video where one of your club members was talking about that, you could always send them back to that video. That's where things like YouTube are extremely powerful because one, 92% of people start their search for the solution to a problem on Google. Well, the truth of the matter is, Toastmasters solves a problem for people, right? So when we can educate people, they're searching for how to be a better public speaker. And we're using that in our videos on our Toastmasters Club, or I know the district now has a YouTube channel as well. These are the sort of things that will help people solve the problem because really that's what we all are as we build relationships is we're problem solvers. People don't know to look for Jim Fuse or for Roxanne Rush. They know that they're looking for how to be a better public speaker or how do I improve, my speech, things of that nature. So education as a Toastmaster, what are those different things? Education is even things like what is the word of the day, right? Giving people that new word that they can maybe use in their vocabulary, which really kind of ties into my next E, which is entertain, right? So people start to be entertained by perhaps learning, like, oh, what is the word of the day? This gives them something that they look forward to. So, how can you create something that's fun, right? We want things to be fun. Maybe you even do some short, fun videos where you show people that kind of messed up uh, a talk. I know, right? That might not actually be nice, but it's kind of like, or even a before and after, I think could be a great thing to do as well because it allows people to see about, wow, I never thought of, these little things that we see with speakers. Another way to entertain would be sharing clips of some of the past international speaking contest winners, right? We've seen some amazing ones. And sometimes, right, some of them are humorous, right? And so we show people that it's not just about things that are always so serious, right? Makes people understand how much, in the case of Toastmasters, as we build relationships, that we are people just like everyone else and not these robot speakers. So I think there's so many ways you could use entertaining posts, and it gets people more curious, right? If they see things that are fun. The next D that I want to talk about is empowerment. And what by empowering, what we really mean there is you can find articles, things from other experts that you share to your social platforms. And by doing that, when you're sharing this knowledge of other experts, you're empowering your audience. So it doesn't always have to be original content. In fact, some people would say, and I know my friend Jessica says this, when her business posts, about 10 out of 15 posts are usually sharing other people's content that is related to what they're doing. Because one, you're doing two things. You are connecting your audience that's getting to know you with other experts. So you're showing that it's not always about you, and you're also giving people sometimes what they need to take that next step to move forward. So empowerment can be a very, very powerful way as well in order for you to do this. And then the next one, which I think is probably the most important one, is engagement. And when we engage with our audience, this is where the power of social media really comes into place, right? It's called social media for a reason. It's not for people to just post stuff, but to engage. In fact, one thing that I would recommend you do, and we'll talk about a platform specifically, LinkedIn, is actually comment on other people's posts and not worry so much about, oh, I've got to come up with some original thought, original post. You start to follow these people that maybe that you admire, because you don't always have to connect on some platforms. You can follow people, see their content, start to engage. And by engagement, I mean much more than just giving a reaction, which is where it's so easy to just click that button and say, oh, I like this or love this or whatever. And don't just say great post. Tell them why it's a great post. Tell them what resonated with you. That's what creates that engagement and that conversation. And that is what's going to allow people to really connect with you. Because when it goes back to what we were talking about in the care approach, we're looking to build uh, fans and advocates. And if people see that you care, and that's really what's happening when we engage, that is the sort of thing that's really going to help you get those folks that are interested in you and what you do. I mean, I think there's a lot of great examples out there. One of my favorite platforms, and a lot of you may not think about this, to engage on is actually Twitter, because on Twitter, in 280 characters or less, but you can also do videos, you can literally reach anyone on the platform. And now there's other things coming out. There's things like Clubhouse. There's actually also Twitter Spaces that is allowing for audio interaction in real time. And so, as an example, I don't know if anybody has done this yet, but the district could create a club on Clubhouse. I know right now it's only iOS, where they could have people come in and talk about topics. That's a huge way to not only engage people that are interested in Toastmasters and build those relationships, but also another way of educating. And so, a lot of times we don't consider the fact that with the four E's that I've talked about, if you can do more than one in a specific post or venue, you're actually more likely to have that much more success in regards to what will occur with that. Uh, Other ways of engagement that you may not consider is when it's somebody's birthday, rather than posting a happy birthday post, maybe send them a video reply or even send them a voice message. This can be done with just about every platform now. Sometimes you have to be connected with them in order to do that, but how can you be different and more human in dealing with other folks? Because a lot of times, like, how many times do we see someone will get a promotion on LinkedIn if they post that? you know Take that extra time to truly engage and not just say, oh, congratulations. Take that time to say, as an example, congratulations, Sheila. So happy for you on your new role. Look forward to hearing about more from it, right? That didn't take me that long to put that extra thought into it. But I would think Sheila's going to appreciate that. And that's going to feel a lot more real than if it's just congratulations. Like, oh, they just pushed a button and said congratulations. Now, this is something interesting that I've tried a few times with LinkedIn as well is if you really think about it, so you can go in there and just record a video. It probably takes you just as long to hit the record button and say your message as it does to type it out. So, so I challenge you that are here today to really start using video replies. And maybe that'll get you, if you have a fear of video, over that, because it's as simple as doing it with your phone. You don't have to, get this set up like I have where I've got lights and webcams and all these other things. Your phone is an extremely powerful tool as a Toastmaster, as a business to communicate with those people that you're wanting to engage with. And so that's the fourth E. But what I like to call my secret C is we need to have a call to action, because so many times people don't think about what are they going to do. You've given them this information, but like, what's the next step, right? Well, if that next step is message me or tell me you're interested in the comments, tell them what you want them to do, because a lot of times I like to call it the so what factor. You put this information out there, and I'm like, okay, it's kind of like, so what? What do you want me to do? We need to tell people what action that we want them to take. Even if it's a YouTube video, maybe at the end or even in the description, it's like, if you want more information, go here. Maybe it's your club's website, maybe it's a landing page to get their emails. These are all things that help us build that care process. And so I'm going to go back to that for a second. So you can kind of see where these four E's really tie into this process. And really, when we're talking about relationship marketing, it's sometimes called social selling as well. People want to do business with people. And so, what are we able to do to really help drive that? A couple people I'll tell you, you might want to look at some of their work. There's a gentleman by the name of Pat Flynn. He wrote a book called Super Fans, and I'm actually one of his super fans. But it's more about getting these advocates, right? Because if you love a business, if you love a brand, you're going to tell people, right? That's how referral really marketing in a sense happens, is if people know that a company is good at it and they hear somebody that they've gotten to know, like, and trust. Like if I know somebody's looking for a financial planner, I'm going to say, hey, do you know my friend Mike Sina? Well, right there, because I already know, like, and trust Mike, and this is sometimes what they talk about in organizations like BNI. If I were to tell, Sheila, oh, you say you need help with financial planning, you might want to go talk to Mike. If Sheila trusts me, she's more willing to have that conversation with Mike than if she was just randomly searching for a financial planner. This is where it's so important for you to be seen out in social. I know it's difficult, for old people like me, getting into this whole digital marketing thing, was not an easy thing to do, but you have to get over your fear of these things. And I think a lot of people, we talked about this actually before this started. Roxanne and I were talking about how a lot of people are like waiting for Zoom to go away and not have to do video. But this has really become, and even just this whole relationship marketing, it's become your new suit. It's become your new outfit, right? This is how you make a first impression on people, is how you communicate. And if they can't find you because you're not putting things out on social media, you're not engaging with people, you're going to have a much tougher time growing your business, because I don't know how many of you still use the yellow pages, right? Those sort of things just don't exist anymore. And so I know it's a challenge, right? We've got these generational shifts as Toastmasters. How do we attract the younger, the younger folks? Because trust me, I watch a lot of these YouTubers. They could use Toastmasters. There's plenty of ums and ahs going on in these videos, or they try to edit them out. And what's funny, if you ever watch a video where somebody's like edited out all those things, you can see it in the movement of the video. It kind of jumps a little bit. So these are all really, I think important things. And what I wanted to do, because this is a lunch and learn, is I wanted to kind of open this up now for the rest of our time to get maybe your questions or comments, so that we can all, grow better in our relationship building.
I'll start with a question, Jim.
Sure.
What do you think is when people are doing videos, how much time would you say people should allot to have that video? And how much is too much?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, it's kind of like, what is your goal with the video? Like, I prefer to do live streaming because once it's done, it's done. I don't have to sit there and spend hours and hours editing it. You would be amazed sometimes, like even when you're watching, if any of you are on TikTok or Instagram and looking at these reels or that people are spending sometimes hours to produce a 60-second video. And personally, for me, I don't necessarily see a big return on investment. Now, I'd be interested to know, Mike, how much time do you spend on some of the videos that you produce, that you put out?
Not very much. Actually, I set them up in the kitchen. I practice ahead of time, and about half the time I get them done in one take. Sometimes it may take 4 or 5 takes. I'm not comfortable enough to do live, but I try to keep those videos under 2.5 minutes.
Right. And that's actually, yeah, no, that's a great point, because you also need to think about the attention span of your viewers. Roxanne, to your point, is people will watch it. In fact, it's funny. I think it depends on where the video is being played. I guess I say I use my spouse test, which is my wife. And if she's on Facebook, she's not going to watch a long video. If it's more than a couple minutes, she's going to lose interest and go to something else. But I think on YouTube, I think the average duration of a session for people on YouTube is about 40 minutes. And so I think it really depends on what audience you're approaching, because people go to YouTube to find answers, right? They're looking for, I mean, how many of you used YouTube to like find out how to, repair a car, maybe prepare a recipe and things like that? You'll watch that longer video. YouTube actually, for, from the aspects of getting, ad revenue down the road, if your channel grows big enough, which the Toastmasters one should be able to get to that at some point. You got to have a 10-minute video is ideal on YouTube, because then they can put a couple of ads in there, and that's where you get the revenue driven off of that. But you could do shorter videos. I've seen a lot of highly successful YouTube channels. They seem like their average video length is anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, and they'll get a lot of views. So it's more of like, it's that I guess if you want to call it snackable content, right? It's enough to get you maybe the answer, and also say, okay, if I want to go find out more, I'm going to go back to that person. So I think that's where that can be, kind of depends on the platform. I know on Instagram you can go live, but as far as uploading a video, it can't be more than a minute long. Now, one thing you could do with video as well as, and I do this with my friend Chris Stone, who's also from Detroit originally. We use a program called Lately, and we upload our videos into that, and it spits out clips of about 10 seconds using artificial intelligence. And then we can lengthen those clips, and we will then take those clips and we'll share them out on social, because it's kind of like, maybe it's, something brilliant that one of our guests, said on our Amazon Live show. We'll then put that clip in there and like, if you want to watch the rest of this video, here's the link to the full video. So that's another way to take some of that longer content and it's kind of like a teaser, like here's that thing, but you're getting people interested because you're giving them those bits of information that that would do that. And I know we've also got in our club, Amanda, or I should say our district, Amanda May Gray does a great job as well doing videos. And I've seen some people doing these 77-day video challenges. That's kind of a long time. I think 30 is okay. But they're doing a short video every day. So I think the, in one aspect, the answer is really go with the short video first. And then the long video, I think, is something that you would want to consider, like as an example, some of the talks that were done during TLI, if you wanted to put them out there, that would make sense as a YouTube video. I don't know that you would get as much out of it on Facebook because it's just not where people go to watch video, and it's harder to find. That's the other problem with Facebook. So I hope that helps.
Jim,
Yes.
a question. Speaking of finding, what do you recommend on hashtags? I've heard bunches of them, or keep it to 3 keywords, that type of stuff. Probably the thing I struggle with the most is coming up with not only what I'm speaking about, but what somebody's actually going to search for.
Gotcha. Now, are you talking specifically for YouTube or in general?
Well, YouTube is one thing, but my primary means is LinkedIn. Now, I will say I have several dozen longer and shorter term videos on YouTube. The one that got the most hits, I was talking about a term that I didn't coin, somebody else coined, but financial porn. That got a bunch of hits. So most of the other stuff, I really don't know how to market them well.
Right.
But I'm primarily focusing on LinkedIn, and I try to come up with 3 hashtags that are relevant to the post. But I've seen some people, they'll put in like 10 or 12 or 15 hashtags.
Yeah, I definitely, from the LinkedIn people that I know, 3 to 5 is the right number. One thing you might consider, Mike, like my friend Judy Fox has kind of her own branded hashtags. It's Fox Rocks. So if you follow the hashtag, you see any of her content, or if you want to like mention her, she sees it as well. So you might want to come up with something that's unique to your brand that you always use on any of your content. So then in the future, people can search for that hashtag. They'll find all your videos. But then also, to your point, right, find those hashtags that that are relevant to the topic. Now, one thing I would also mention, if you haven't done this, is if you have a LinkedIn company page, you can actually have 3 what they call community hashtags that are associated to your page. So even as a Toastmasters club, if you have a company page, one of the hashtags might be like public speaking, and another might be Toastmasters. And the whole reason for this is that it allows your page to engage on post using that hashtag. So you could actually get away from using your personal profile at times if you wanted to get people to start following your company page, so that you'll start to get engagement on your page, because you can get followers on there, and you can start putting content out that you want specifically to be related to your brand, not necessarily always putting that on your personal profile. Plus, it's almost like having another website in a way. So that's something I would also consider when it comes to LinkedIn.
Jim, I had a question with the 4 E's and a C.
Mm-hmm.
Do you try and hit all of those for every video that you do?
If you can, that's like the A+, but if you can get at least 2 of the 4, I think that's always good. But yeah, the more you can do, the better. Absolutely.
Well, it's easier to do the call of action, and if you can be engaging, maybe if you can hit one more,
right,
by being entertaining or educate. To me, I found it a little bit hard to entertain and educate together.
Right.
Together.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think I tend to be more educational at times than entertaining. So I've got to work on that. That's the Marine in me. I still have a hard time letting my hair down, so to speak.
Jim, this is Sheila.
Uh-huh.
I just have a quick question about marketing on Facebook. How reliable is the analytics that you can use to kind of plug in and add? I'm asking for Toastmasters and for one of my side businesses,
Mhm.
because you can say, I want people in this age bracket who are Toastmasters, who are interested in learning how to be better leaders. And they say that we can send it out to 1,000 Toastmasters, but the return is almost zilch to none.
Right.
So is it that the analytics aren't reliable, or is it that we just really don't know how to follow up on anyone who says that they're interested?
Well, I think sometimes, especially with Facebook ads, that's part of the challenge because you don't really know if that's, even though in one, they have to identify somewhere that they're interested in Toastmasters, right? So you may not be reaching those people that are Toastmasters because maybe they haven't put anything in their behavior, their profile to show that. So you might have to look a little bit broader and look at things like public speaking or leadership development. And definitely with ads, it's a lot of split testing. Um, the good thing about ads, I will say, is that because whether we like it or not, Facebook is a pay to play platform. Is that if you are putting a little money into the quote unquote Facebook jukebox, you will get more people seeing your content, um, as opposed to if you don't use it at all. I tend to actually, Facebook over the years is not my favorite platform anymore. I even, as an example, we don't always think of it this way, but on Twitter, you can see everything. The problem is if you've got a big following, it's hard to keep up with. But that's why on Twitter, doing things like list allows you to be very focused. Like you could have a list of like Toastmasters in Atlanta, Georgia, and you'll see every time they tweet, and you can respond to their tweets and engage with them, share their stuff as well. As opposed to, like in my case, I've gotten up to over 10,000 followers. It's kind of hard for me to keep up with all 10,000. But that's where I think lists are powerful, and the fact that you will see all a person's content. Where on Facebook, the average is like under 2% on a business page, unless you're running ads, and that's part of the challenge there as well. And then of course on your personal page, there's that whole challenge of it seems like if you don't use a link, or if it has something to do with you, a lot of people will see it, but then if you post something with a link, nobody will see it. I always find it funny, like I'll share something about one of my kids and I get over 200 likes in no time flat, and then I share, hey, I'm teaching a class, and it's like nobody sees it
Crickets.
because
So,
they want us to pay.
a lot of what you're talking about seems almost like if you're running a business and the business isn't social media business, that you need to hire someone to help navigate this
Yes.
arena.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
so
absolutely. I mean, to me, I think that's sometimes where I'll say I see the mistake made of like we're not all, at least I'll admit I'm not. We're not all good at everything, right? I'm not going to be my own accountant, right? I hire an accountant. I'm not a lawyer, but a lot of times as a solopreneur, as a small business, we want to try to do everything ourselves because we think we're saving money. But the reality is we're doing a lot of things, um, probably at a minimal level, where it's like, okay, I need a marketing expert to do this, but then because it's social media and when it's free, we think, oh well, I shouldn't have to pay a lot, it's a free platform. But if you're not getting the results, and then you blame it on the social media platform, when it may be that you just don't understand uh, the ins and outs of the platform, and especially they're constantly changing. I mean, Facebook,
oh
I
yeah,
think, seems to change every week, and they move things and where it can be found. Um, now, and even with this whole Clubhouse phenomena, now they're talking about Facebook may come out with its own Clubhouse clone. And so, and since we're on Zoom, I know I won't get taken down. My, my perspective too with Facebook is they're trying to be all things to all people. And I think, I go back to my days in the defense industry when I first retired. Um, what's your one thing that you're good at, right? I think YouTube's successful, Google's successful because Google is a search engine. YouTube is basically a video search engine. They're not trying to be Facebook. I mean, they're adding new features, like they're adding this YouTube Shorts because they're all a little worried about TikTok. But I don't know, based on the audience we have here today, I don't think a lot of us are spending a lot of time on TikTok because it's like just watching mindless short videos. And sure, some people are succeeding with it, but I still don't necessarily see how that is going to move the needle of our business. And then with everyone in here usually having to speak at least 5 to 7 minutes, right? That just doesn't work on TikTok. So why would I waste my time on there?
So where do you go? Where do you go? Because things change so fast. Where do you find the right company that will take up the charge for you?
Well, I mean, I think some of it is you have to kind of look around. I mean, I do consulting with people. I know people that do that sort of thing, full time. They just manage people's social. I used to do a lot more of that myself, but I have found that there's other ways I can, work with my time and makes more money. Because I will tell you, a lot of people don't want to pay a lot for social media management. They're like, you want how much? Oh, I can't afford that. And
Well,
so,
what is reasonable? What do you look at like that? Because that may be something that our district might want to consider. Because
right,
when I was public relations manager, things were starting to change,
right,
and now, just in 3 years, things have just
right.
changed considerably.
Well, I think it goes back to how many platforms are they going to manage? How many posts are needed? Because I think, for an example, I don't think that there's a very big presence on Instagram with the district, but there's a lot of, I'll just say millennials, in that they spend a lot of time on Instagram. So if you had someone that could get creative with like doing short videos, or you can actually do a longer form of video called Instagram TV, which can be up to 10 minutes, you could do some of that. But is that really, and all this is going to take at least 6 months before you see results. I know some people that have worked with some of the folks in NSA in the past. But I mean, I hate to throw out a number, but I would say if somebody said they wanted $1,000 a month is probably reasonable if you're wanting someone to manage multiple platforms. But you also got to know, what is the end result you're looking for? Are you looking for increases in membership? Are you looking for just more people following your content? I think that becomes the other thing, is like, what is the end state that you're looking to get by having these people, because just posting for the sake of posting is not a strategy, in
No.
my opinion. It's like, oh, well, we've got stuff out there, but if it's not moving the needle, and then ads become a part of that as well. Like, going back to what Sheila was talking about, right? Are we going to run ads because we think that's going to get more people to our events, or, to open houses, things of that nature? That's, I think, kind of that unknown. And then I also think, as an example, if our target clients are, as an example, in business to business, probably want to make sure we have a strong LinkedIn presence, right?
Yeah.
That goes back to, for those of you that are in District 44, District 44 has a LinkedIn company page. You should be adding that to your experience just as a member of the district, to say, I'm a Toastmaster in this district. If you've held a position, you could put, I was this position in the district from this state to this state. Well, now when people go look at you as an individual, they see that in your bio, in your experience, and they start to see that Toastmasters logo everywhere. Then they say, oh, I need to find out more about this Toastmasters thing, because they see, people like Sheila, who is a distinguished Toastmaster and things of that. Those are those are sort of things that could be worked on with a strategy on social media.
Yeah, I think there's really return on investment is
Right.
twofold. One is to retain the
Right.
members we have with education, entertainment, and the other one is to gain new members. So
Yes.
if it was strictly Toastmaster oriented, that would be the return on investment that we'd need to see in order to do this.
Right.
And even though we have platforms where you can put in all your social media in advance for the different platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, it's a lot of work. It's
Yeah.
incredible amount of
Because
work.
yeah, because to me, it really goes back to the engagement piece. You almost need to have whoever, and so that becomes the challenge. If you're going to hire someone to quote unquote be you, they got to understand your voice. They got to understand how you do things. And so if you've got someone going out there engaging as, say, for an example, as District 44, do they really understand what Toastmasters is about? Are they going and finding those people that they're going to communicate with? There's, even things like Twitter chats, right? There's a lady out of Colorado that had, for a while, was doing a Twitter chat on Toastmasters. And, I don't know, I know she definitely got more people involved and engaged for a period of time, but that took a lot of effort. And I know she's not doing it as frequently. Um,
It's
you
like
know,
a full-time job.
Yes, yes, yeah, because you've got to be setting up guest topics. You've got to set aside that time. We just recently started on Monday nights. Now we're doing this District 44 live stream show, and that's kind of the idea. Is exactly what you're talking about. We're hoping by putting on some public, on the public page on the YouTube channel, that people will start to see that and be like, oh, I want to learn more about Toastmasters, right? It's not just necessarily for the existing members, but it's also as a way to kind of recruit people to get involved in Toastmasters.
Now I can see
Hey,
how
Jim,
you
sorry,
to-
Michelle. Cheryl had a question about whether it is better to post natively, or I guess what she means is, at that time, or through a scheduler.
A scheduler can work really well. I mean, they're actually more and more of the platforms have them built in, so you don't necessarily have to buy one. But I also know a company that I use their product, Agora Pulse. They've done studies like, some people say, oh, if you use a third-party tool, your reach isn't as much, and there's really no definitive evidence for that. I will say a couple things with scheduling that you got to be wary of is if you've scheduled stuff out in advance and something happens in the public eye, you may have posts that appear insensitive because at the time you scheduled it, it seemed fine. So you have to be on top of that. The other thing about, I used to have a guy I worked with. I won't say I worked with him, but I was giving him advice, and he's like, hey, did you see my post I put on Facebook? And I did see it, only because I'm a night owl. I said, yeah, but you posted it at 1:00 in the morning. Nobody's going to see it because everybody's asleep, and it's a chronological feed. So when everybody's waking up at 8, or getting on Facebook at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, his post is already long gone. So that's where the scheduling tool can come in handy, because, if you don't want to have to sit there and get on Facebook at whatever time because you got other things going on, that's where scheduling can really be beneficial. But the other piece I would say, and this kind of goes back to engagement, is I usually take a little bit of time throughout the day to like just take a quick look at, a lot of times it's Twitter, maybe a little bit of LinkedIn, and I'll just check my notifications to see if maybe somebody's mentioned me, tagged me, so I can at least respond or, engage with them. But I don't sit there and like worry about, oh, I got to react as soon as somebody says something. I just don't think that that's realistic for any of us. And I think that's where people sometimes get, sucked into the proverbial black hole of social media because they'll get on there and then they can't get off. So you have to be very precise in like when you're going to spend your time in there and what your goal is. And so as an example, if you get on Instagram and make a post, spend another 10 minutes engaging with other people, and maybe you'll start to see some movement on the post you just did. And then you can respond to those people, and then maybe come back, later in the day. Like I said, I usually look at like morning, midday, and evening as the 3 times I go on. And then, depending on what else I have going on, I work around that. Things like Twitter chats. I'm a part of a chat on Thursdays at 1 called Twitter Smarter. I put that on my calendar so that I don't forget about some of these things that I want to be aware of. And that'd be another thing I would recommend, is if there's events or, Twitter chats or whatever, put them on your calendar, at least as a reminder, so that you can engage once in a while. And, nobody's going to get upset if you're not able to do it all the time. And that's also kind of the challenge with scheduling, where, and I'll just tell you that the danger of these audio platforms is, what I've seen is like, and it happened to me once, so I won't let it happen again. I was on Clubhouse for 6 straight hours from 6 to midnight. And I'm like, I can't do that, right? And I don't think any of us can afford to take that kind of time just to basically have a chat. But at the same point, like tonight at 7, Lois Kramer, if any of you are familiar with, she's written a
Yeah.
couple books on speaking. She does a 2-hour, how to make money speaking on Clubhouse, but it's specifically 2 hours. She doesn't let it go over. So you've got to really, anytime you're engaging with people real time, you've got to definitely make sure you put boundaries on your time, or you'll end up on there a lot longer than you expected to. So that would be another thing in regards to scheduling. So as an example, if the district wanted to do something like that, I would say schedule it for a certain date and time. And, so maybe it's like just a conversation about, Toastmasters. You could have different guest speakers that talk about different things, because especially with Toastmasters being, really, if you think about it, most of what we do, it's all about our voice and audio. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone on camera, but it's enough to get people interested. And then you could say, hey, come over and follow us wherever you want to follow you.
Are you saying Clubhouse is just audio?
Yes. And
Cheryl
Twitter
had one
and
more-
Twitter
oh,
Spaces is as well now too.
Cheryl had one more question.
Sure.
Are you familiar with Russell Brunson's Traffic Secrets book? And if not, do you have a book recommendation?
I am familiar with his book. I think he's really into the funnels. I just am personally, I mean, maybe I should be, but I'm not a funnel person. I'm more of a building relationships, building a network. And then, most of my business comes from referrals. I mean, I will say another important place to be, and I don't know, I'm sure there's a way for the district to do it, is to have the business, or have the district on Google My Business. And people could actually leave reviews for the district. You can upload posts about upcoming events, because it all goes back to people are searching to find you. And so even with these funnels, right, people still got to find that initial funnel to get into the funnel. And a lot of times that's being done through advertising. It doesn't just, like, oh, build a funnel and they'll come. Yeah, but you got to put some money into it to get them to find it. Any other questions? We've got a few minutes.
Jim, this is Sheila again. Going back to your empowerment, where we can possibly post others on our content, is there some type of release that we need to get before we post someone else's content on our page?
Not usually. I would say, like, as an example, if I see one of Mike's videos, I could just share it to my page because it's his original post.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes people actually appreciate that, like, oh, somebody's actually sharing my content. You're not actually because you're literally, you're sharing what they've already created. You're not like copying and pasting it. In fact, what happens sometimes, this has happened with like, I think it was LuLaRoe or one of those network marketing companies. It would be like they're copying the post and acting as if it's their own. Then to the platforms that appears as spam, and then they start shutting people down. So if they want you to share it as opposed to say copy and paste. So if you see something, you share it to your network. But even then it depends on the platform. Like people will tell you you're better just commenting on someone's LinkedIn post as opposed to sharing it, because it, like, the share cuts off all the people that were involved in the original post. They don't see the share. And so those are, little things like that. But like on Facebook, yeah, absolutely. You can share stuff to groups, to pages. A lot of times too, if you tag them, that, this is a post from, and I would, tag, Sheila, and tell people why you're sharing it. That's the other piece of that helps build that engagement, and sometimes proves that you actually read it. Because I've seen some funny stuff where people will share it and it's like, you obviously didn't read it, because sometimes people do that on purpose to have fun with people. It's like, I want to see if anyone will share this nonsense that I put up, and they do. But that's how I would look at that. If you're not sure, just reach out to them. But I would probably say, 9 out of 10 times they're going to be thrilled that you're sharing their content.
Thank you.
So we should all go on the district social media and do a quick video telling them how much we appreciate you.
Well, yeah, I'd love that.
Good practice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And oh yeah, here, I'll put this in the chat. If any of you want to connect with me.
So I'll just challenge everyone. Let's do that. That's good practice as Toastmasters, to go in and give a review on social media.
Yep. Or you can leave me a review on Google too. I'm happy with that. Roxanne already has. So thank you for that. Well, Michelle, I hope I passed the test, since this was my first official lunch and learn after going through the training provided by David and Sandy. So
Thank you so much for doing this. This is just, these things are so valuable, and it'll be posted on the D44 Toastmaster site. So I'm sure the district will make sure that lots of people see it. And as soon as we're through, I'm headed over to Facebook to thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, Jim, we really appreciate you spending time with us today. That hour flew by. I feel like we could talk more, but unfortunately we have to wrap it up. It was definitely educational, engaging, and empowering to so many of us. So I sincerely appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us, and giving people an opportunity to ask questions. And I hope everyone enjoyed today's session. Be sure to check out our other sessions that are coming up. We have 2 more this month. 12 Weeks to Transformation is next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And then we have another one the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. Talking about inclusion and gratitude in leadership. So those are also some very powerful workshops. And all the workshops that we had in our past this year are also available on the website, and encourage you to check those out as well. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank
Have
you,
a wonderful
everyone.
day.
Great.
You too.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Thanks,
Great
Jim.
job. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
See you.